Introduction. Oh, that's just a popcorn movie. How often has that phrase been uttered in what was probably a slightly derisive manner? Too often, if you ask me. The fact is that most of these so-called popcorn movies usually demonstrate outstanding storytelling skills, muscles which they flex with ease throughout their various running times. Much can be learned by observing the principles at work in these seemingly effortless confections. So what does that have to do with how you go about writing your own fiction? It could be a lot. Conventional wisdom suggests the best way to write a novel is to read other great novels, which is true. Look no further than principle number 2 in this book. However, while reading a great work of fiction, like watching a classic magic routine, it's often impossible to see how the trick is being done. You instinctively know they've done something amazing, but for the life of you, you can't figure out how they pulled it off. Sometimes it's easier to recognize and absorb the tricks of storytelling in a different medium and then adapt those ideas into your own writing. There is, admittedly, a world of difference between making movies and writing novels. However, there are some areas which definitely overlap. Outstanding books and movies engage audiences by telling compelling, involving stories. The best, most crowd-pleasing films, sometimes called popcorn movies, do this by employing some key concepts which, as it turns out, are there for the taking by novelists. These are what I call the popcorn principles. 25 precepts gleaned from all phases of the motion picture creation process: pre-production, production, post-production, and distribution. As you'll see, there is surprising overlap between what they do and the process of creating, refining, and releasing books. That's the meaning behind the book's title and its subtitle, and the goal of this slim volume, to help you see how the illusion is being pulled off in movies, inspiring you to create your own versions of these tricks in the books and stories you create. But first, a little background. I've written and produced a half-dozen low-budget feature films. Along the way, I've written several books on film production. These books are filled with tips and workarounds for beginners, taken from interviews I've had with more than 100 filmmakers. In the process of writing those books, I had the privilege of talking to some of the industry's top filmmakers, like producer and legend Roger Corman, or directors such as Steven Soderbergh, Jon Favreau, Stuart Gordon, Cassie Lemons, Leslie Linka Glader, George Romero, Bob Clark, and Miranda July. And screenwriters like Kenneth Lonergan, Academy Award winner, Dan Futterman and Whit Stillman, both nominated for Academy Awards, Dan O'Bannon, Susan Coyne, and Rebecca Miller. And editors such as Roger Nygaard, Dodie Dorn, and Carol Littleton. And even a handful of terrific actors like Edie Falco, Mo Collins, Alan Cumming, Barbara Steele, Griffin Dunn, and Tom Noonan, who, by the way, could also fit comfortably into any of those previous categories: producer, director, writer, and editor. I used the tips they offered on all aspects of filmmaking to craft 4 books for beginning filmmakers, giving them tips on how to succeed and get their movies made. Then I started writing novels, over a dozen of them as of this writing, and a funny thing happened. I came to realize that many of the filmmaking principles the pros had given me worked in my fiction writing as well. Not all of them, of course. Some were too technical in nature and referred to aspects which were unique to the world of filmmaking. But many of the principles not only applied to writing fiction, but were also a great help in making my writing better. Several of the best principles came, not so surprisingly, from the screenwriters I spoke to.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.